with the exception of a very few businesses, all businesses are impacted. But this particular program would target those businesses and support those businesses that were closed down or restricted in their ability to operate. The first tier would be those businesses that would have closed completely, or that, frankly could only do, maybe 5% or 10% of what they'd normally done. And what I'm talking, that particular group of businesses would primarily be restaurants that were almost exclusively dine-in. They don't have drive-through. They did some carry-out, but primarily those businesses that were forced to shut down or drastically curtail. The next group of businesses would be those businesses, and again, primarily restaurants, and I don't think we need to put a percentage on the amount of drive-through business they had, but it's safe to say those businesses are somewhat obvious in terms of their business model reflects a lot of drive-through business. I don't even know that we need 3 tiers. Councilman Clark talked with me this morning about, perhaps we just need 1 or 2 tiers, or 2 tiers to make that differentiation. But depending on council's input, I think 2 tiers is adequate. Again, we're looking for council input and direction on this, any modifications that you would wish to make. I would also defer to Yvonne and Mandy for any comments that they may have. We were hit and miss last week, so a lot of this was rolled out with some very based on the council discussion, but we may make a couple of minor tweaks to it depending on council input.
We do have an incoming call. Please hold. City Council Chambers. Okay. Do I put them on speakerphone? Is that, or should I just hold it to the microphone? Let me try to put you on speakerphone. Hold on 1 second. Are you there, Bob? Bob, are you there? Okay.
I've been listening to this, and I listened to it the last meeting. Okay, if we think about this, what we've been going through, it's not just one group of people that's having trouble. Okay, and that particular group of people, the federal government's trying to take care of. Okay, EDC is taking care of them. I believe when we get down into the utilities, we need to give a little bit to everybody.
What does he mean, everybody? I'm sorry, go ahead, ask your question.
What do you mean everybody? Are you talking about residential and businesses? What are you referring to with everybody?
Did you hear her question, Mr. McCauley?
No, I didn't. I'm sorry.
She said, what do you mean by everyone? Are you referring to residential and commercial, or just all businesses?
I'm talking about everybody, basically that gets utilities.
Right.
Not just businesses, I'm talking about people also.
But the purpose of this, Bob, was to the businesses that we deem non-essential and closed.
Okay? But if you think about it, everybody's going one way. And the little guy out here is, he needs help too. And if the city's gonna help somebody, they need to help all their people.
Any creative ideas where we could get funding for this?
That I don't know.
So, Robert,
My point
I
exactly.
think the government is helping the businesses to the extent for payroll and to keep their employees. Are you of the understanding that they're also willing to pay for the utilities?
Well, it's,
Part of your loan proceeds can be used to cover utilities.
they're getting help and everybody else isn't.
I think the original intent or spirit behind this program from Mr. White was to cover those impacted by the order that this council issued, meaning we closed down their businesses, and that's.
as much as I would love to consider that, it's just not possible.
Here's my question, and I hate to ask this question, okay? But is that the only important people in this town?
Is that the only important people in this town was his question?
No, not at all. But then again, where would we get that large amount of funding from? It's no secret that our numbers are going to be way down. We've got stuff closed, our revenues are going to be down. We're more than likely going to have to pull from reserves to balance our budget if I was just guessing. Where could we get any sort of funding to even consider this? You know as well as I do, you got to consider the funding in all things. It's not that anybody's less deserving than someone else.
And again, the funds, what we're looking at doing, back to Mr. Clark's question the last time we met about the legalities of this would fall under the 380 program on the state level, and that program allows for us to provide funding, money, and services of the municipality to support local economic development and stimulate business and commercial activity. So that's the premise under which we're operating, is to stimulate commercial and business activity. That's how we're able to fund this under a 380 program.
It was just that I don't know, what are you gonna do with the little guy? Sorry about that. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, sir, I do, and I think that you have a valid point. And maybe we could have another look at this at a future meeting about maybe an application for a small percentage reduction for some community members that have lost their job due to COVID.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I am just afraid that if we start trying to bring this out to every person, citizen of this community or whatever, get outside the business realm, that it's going to be such a minuscule amount because of the funding we could have available. I don't think it would.
Well, yeah, and what we would like to do and what we feasibly can do are not always going to
Yeah,
align.
but I
And what
just don't
impact
see
would we
that
have
that's
if we?
feasible.
Sure, I understand.
I think we don't need to lose sight of the fact that we ordered these businesses to close and that we have impacted their livelihood. We, as a council, did that on orders from other people, but we impacted their business. We haven't impacted the average household.
We have
than-
immediately put into place a somewhat of a relief effort in the fact that we immediately stopped all disconnects. We waived all late fees for utility customers, and Yvonne has been working diligently to set up payment plans to help and assist those that are experiencing hardships through this time.
Exactly. I think that's what we need to focus on, the part that we've been a part of, not necessarily the whole realm of the virus. We can't control any of that, but this particular part, I believe we can control to some degree and offer some relief. And it's not a lot of relief either. It's 1 month's utility bill in the hopes that we can retain these businesses. We want them to open back up. We want them to be successful again.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Thanks for calling in, Bob.
Right.
Does council have a motion they'd wish to make in regards to this
Mayor,
program?
could I address the two-tier approach that
Could I make the motion and then open it up for suggestion? Or-
Yes.
Okay. I'd make a motion to approve the utility assistance program and to authorize staff to make modifications and implement.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Open for discussion.
Okay. On the two-tier approach that I brought into Finley this morning, the reason I didn't put a third tier in there is because if a 25% reduction is, to me, on a small business, kind of yes, it helps, but it could be considered more of a slap in the face.
I think council walked away last Monday agreeing that we wanted a two-tier program.
And the two-tier program, I tried to take into consideration the fact that some businesses were completely closed from their normal activities. And if that occurred, they would get that 100% that was.
I believe that was the
Yeah,
conversation
that was
that we
our
all had.
understanding when we
But the
left.
second tier, instead of going based on a business model relying on the 50%, I just put it where they had to make modification, and they had primarily a drive-through business, which would eliminate a lot of those from the 100% funding. Now, I don't care what other restrictions that the council deems to put on this, but I'm trying to make it as simple as possible without getting into their business model.
Again, I want to reiterate, that's exactly the message from council last week.
That's what we walked away agreeing upon.
Okay, that's why I brought this to this particular write-up to Finley this morning. I thought he was going to present it to y'all tonight. Did y'all get a copy of it?
Yes, sir.
We have the 3-tier copy. Yes, we do.
You didn't get a.
We have not received the 2-tier. No, sir.
I asked that we make copies provided to everybody on the council.
The two tiers, simply what you have with the exclusion of the third. So there really wasn't any reason to
Just to
redraft it.
clarify,
Staff,
Councilman Clark has not presented a plan to you any different from the plan the council agreed upon last week, correct?
the only difference is the exclusion of that third tier of businesses.
We excluded the third tier last week as well.
And the elimination of the 50%.
Right. Staff concurs and can carry this forward as, based on this, this input.
You know,
And I had just one comment. There is something in the application that I really do like, because I know that last week we talked about it being non-essential businesses, but I was contacted by Dr. Benton's office, and even though their business is considered essential, with all the stay-at-home, their business was reduced by way more than half. And so with the wording and this eligibility, I believe that businesses like that were impacted would be able to apply for this, at least for the second tier part.
I'd just like it make it very clear that I'm unhappy that y'all don't have a copy of that. I brought it in at 8 o'clock this morning for y'all to have.
But
be
I
able to
think,
look
I think
at
that's what I'm
tonight.
trying to explain to you, Mr. Clark, is this council walked away last week with the understanding that we were only looking at a two-tier program. So we're not dismissing your concept. That was the council's concept as of last week.
Well, I had asked that you be provided with a copy of it.
And I think we've all discussed essential versus non-essential. Someone brought up doctors, eye doctors, chiropractors, and things like that. I do think those will have to be addressed. Mandy mentioned the motels, the severe impact on their business with no one being able to travel, so.
Just to clarify, council, so those businesses that have been impacted by the pandemic, however, were not forced to close, don't fit into this program.
Well, I disagree with that. I think they need to be included, because that was one of the things I was going to say, is I know that we said that we don't, or Councilman White, I believe, said in the application, we don't need to see numbers. Well, I don't think we need to see numbers, but if they can prove, like if we have these businesses that have lost tremendous amounts, if we want them to stay open, I think that they should at least be considered in the tier 2. If they can show, and I'm thinking that maybe there needs to be some show of loss of business, like the percentage loss or something.
I mean, how do we draw the line and say?
That would include my business as well, and I'm probably $25,000 down.
Well, I'm saying that that's a possibility.
I don't think that I should be eligible for any assistance.
Well, then you wouldn't apply.
Right, but the point is the businesses that we deem non-essential. I would love to give everybody everything that we could, but just like I said, I'm definitely down.
For clarification, restaurants were not deemed non-essential.
That's what I understood last week, that it was non-essential.
And restaurants were not deemed non-essential.
No, but we closed them. All the restaurants that we closed and deemed and businesses non-essential. That's the original scope. If they had a dine-in area that we closed, then they also qualify.
They would fall under what I had proposed in the tier 1 as well.
Yes, so just like last week, that's what we said.
But I did not want to do the tier 2 as presented in this, only because I didn't want to get into their business model. I don't think that's any of our business.
No, I don't think that has.
Nor does council want to do that.
Well, with the way that this is written, the application's written, it looks like it's pretty open. And it doesn't specifically say whether you were deemed non-essential or not essential, and I like the wording in what's presented. I was just saying that I think that we could have something where they could show how much loss.
That's every other business in town now.
Yes, I know.
I think it needs to fall under the definition of non-essential.
Or that we close, or that our order,
Well,
Direct.
non-essential is what we closed.
Well, we closed dining rooms as well.
You did what?
We closed dining rooms,
Yes.
same thing.
Yes, but you didn't do that in a separate item. You did it as per the governor's
Right. Everything
And
that
the
was
federal
forced to
government-
close at that moment.
non-essential.
I think under the eligibility, the list of businesses is where we may have missed some, but I think that's a fairly inclusive list that we would rely on to make determination regarding eligibility and award under this particular concept.
we currently have a motion and a second to approve the grant program. However, it seems like no one is exactly sure of the details of the grant program that we're approving. Council needs to clarify what it is their intent is behind this grant program. 2 tiers, 3 tiers, no tiers? How do you want this to be written up and distributed?
Can we amend it to 2 tiers?
Yes, I believe that was our understanding from last meeting, was the 2 tiers, so I would agree with that.
I'm comfortable with the way it looks. I think the eligibility states that you have to have been fully or partially closed or restricted in your ability to operate.
I think the
I
key.
don't know what else we need to do. If we get it so constricted, we become like a lending agent or the Small Business Association. I don't think we want to do that. Our intent was just to offer up some relief to some of the businesses that have been impacted by this COVID-19 virus.
By our order.
Yes, they were impacted by us, and I don't think we need to reinvent the wheel.
So the motion that we have in place coming from you is to approve it as is with 2 tiers or 3?
We agreed last week to 2 tiers. I'm
Okay.
comfortable with that.
Okay.
I understand, and I fully understand that not every business in town is listed on either of these tiers. I found some myself that were eligible and weren't on here. I'm not saying that the list we have is complete. I'm saying people will come forward when they're ready to open, and they will make themselves known that I should have been on this list, and I'm applying for some relief. I think that's the intent of our program, and that's the intent of my motion.
And I agree, as long as we aren't held to that list and that people can apply if they feel that they fit. I agree with that.
I think the list was just to help us decide that there are people out there are businesses. Finley, this is not
No, that was,
stone, right?
that's not
Purpose
the
of the
list for
list was to
consideration.
attach a dollar figure.
Yes, that's all we needed was just to know.
I believe Ms. Keeney's referring to the list of establishment types that's included on the application. And that's worded to read, may not be limited to restaurants, barbers, and hair care salons, nail salons, gyms, spas, and certain retailers. Is that the intent of council to leave it that list? Okay, so we have a motion and a second for a two-tiered program with the application wording as it is.
May I clarify, are you leaving the 50%?
No. No, we described, in the narrative or in the presentation, we discussed the fact that that was not necessary per your comments.
Okay.
Do council have any more questions or discussion before we take a vote on this item?
One more question. Okay, so the tiers, we are going with the 2 tiers, but we do not have a percentage for what each tier is.
Now, the percentage would be 100% and 75%.
175, okay.
100% fully, 100% of the business's first electric billing cycle?
And 75% of tier 2.
Correct. Now, I do have a question. Are we including water and
Yes,
wastewater?
this
in-
is inclusive of all their
That's
utilities.
all their utilities? Okay. Just for clarification, because we've been asked, are we talking electric or are we talking utilities? And utilities would include all of that.
Yeah,
So
that's
it's a,
a big difference. Yeah. And so the utilities that were on our list that we had for pricing purposes was all-inclusive? Or was it electric only?
it was all inclusive.
Okay.
Okay.
Just to make
Oh,
sure we were looking at the right numbers.
Are you eliminating the EMS fee since it's voluntary?
I did not understand.
It's on the bill. You're
No,
only
it is not.
talking
It's no
water,
long-
water, sewer, and electric?
The EMS fee is no longer on your bill. EMS has been off the bill for quite some time.
Okay, but are you just doing the water, sewer, and electric? Are you doing garbage as well?
And garbage,
Okay.
all
The
all
entire
city
utility
services
bill.
that we bill
Okay,
for.
I just want to be clear on it.
Yeah. Okay, last time, we have a motion and a second to approve the grant program, or the emergency relief program to cover the utilities with a two-tier program for the businesses listed on the application to cover all utilities and services, including electric, water, wastewater, and garbage. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That is unanimous. Number 4, discussion of possible action regarding waiver of third-party credit card fees and online processing fees.
Mayor and council, this was requested to be placed back on the agenda by council. I did include the memo from April 3rd as a reference, and we'd be happy to follow whatever directive council wishes to vote on.
I make a motion to approve this waiver.
My understanding is we've already voted on this.
Okay, we have a motion. We have to have a second to continue discussion.
Second.
A motion and a second, open for discussion.
Okay, my understanding is we've already discussed this, we've already voted on this, so I'm not quite sure why we are coming back to discuss it again.
We're coming back to discuss it again because I felt like that all 3 of the items that we did when they lumped them together were lumped together as a group. And I don't think that the individual items got a fair shake. And so that's why I brought it back. Because I think that people were too passionate about certain things in the last vote. And I think that we really need to come back and look at this again because we're helping out businesses. And I think that I think that the city can afford $5,600 to help those people that don't want to leave their house. And I just think that we needed to relook at it because I just didn't feel like being lumped together. I thought it needed to be looked at individually. That was my rationale.
So Yvonne, I had a question about the $5,600 that's monthly impact. Is that the fees that the city recovers on a monthly basis? Or is that the dollar amount of the utilities that are being charged?
I'm not for sure where that 5,600 total came from unless Phil kind of did a rough math on it. Okay.
Well, that's a pretty high number as far as I'm concerned.
To be giving that away.
But we're going to give away like 72,000?
And just to be clear about this, that 2% is for a third-party processing fee for
Right.
merchant fees.
Right.
We're, we're already doing late fees, we're not doing late
Exactly.
fees, we're not doing door tags, we're not doing disconnects. We're losing revenue. That's right. Bottom line.
And
This,
so, last time when we voted on this, you or Finley One had suggested that some of the other utility entities had gotten a waiver from that third-party company, or did I misunderstand that?
I wasn't here at that meeting.
You have to rewrite your contract with that third-party company, so it would require us to redo our contract as well.
But that's only on online payments, that's only
An
through,
amendment.
that's a interface with Encode that we would have to talk to them, and that's only on the web payments. That's not including people that pay with a credit card face-to-face.
Right.
That third-party merchant is not gonna waive those fees for us.
Okay.
No, and I think, TJ, what you were talking about is they said other cities have waived the fees. Like,
No, I thought I understood that they had gotten a waiver from the company that was charging them, but that's my mistake.
okay.
No, the,
I understood it as to other cities have done this. For
the memo from Encode did say that it, you know, we have to change our contract. They're gonna charge us for that.
Okay.
With the small percentage that do pay by credit card, so the credit card payment from March was 8.63, and then online was 10.2%. That's a really small percentage to waive that fee. It's not like we're going to be, and it's, I keep saying this, and I mean, I feel like it was a discussion. We have waived the late fees. Like she said, I mean, we're losing revenue right now, so I don't understand waiving $5 to keep losing revenue. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. It's going to put more work on our administration. It's not feasible. It's more manpower for Yvonne to have to sit here and do it over 18%. 18% of our citizens are paying online and credit cards. The rest of them are cash.
I will tell you from experience, some of them don't pay credit card because of the fees.
And that is their choice. They're given a choice to have it direct drafted, they're having a choice to write a check, and they're given a choice to either, bring it through with cash. They have choices. If we went to a credit card only payment because of all this, then I get it. I would totally be in agreement. But when this is a choice that they're given, we should not be paying for a convenience fee for somebody's choice. I think
Agreed.
we're losing too much money.
I completely agree. I don't think that the $5 impact is enough to warrant every other person paying for it.
I talked to a gentleman the other day whose impact was $12.
$12?
$12 because of the amount of utilities that they used in that month.
Because it does,
Because he
It's
wanted to
$1
pay
and
online.
It's $1.25 plus 2%.
Right, I
And
understand
theirs
that.
was
so
$12.
we should pay that? We should cover that because he wants to pay by credit card?
just during,
He would have paid by credit card.
But I'm saying if you want to waive that, then you're saying that the other taxpayers should absorb the cost for one citizen to pay by credit card.
No,
That's-
I'm not saying that.
That's exactly
That's what
I'm
happens if
saying.
you make a motion to waive the credit card fees.
Right. I did make a motion to second it, to waive it.
Right, and that's saying that all the other taxpayers pay it.
No.
That's what's going to happen.
exactly-
No, that's not what I'm saying. I said, I seconded the motion based on the fact, of course, I wasn't here on the 6th, that's no excuse. But the fact is they would have paid by credit card, but they didn't because of the fee that was added to it. I'm just making one reference.
well, I think.
Right, but then why should we waive that?
My point of this wasn't to waive all credit card fees. The point was just to waive the online credit card fees for the people that wanted to pay online that didn't want to come in and didn't want to come out. I thought that it would be a good gesture for the city to do that just during this time period while they're restricted to stay home.
Then Yvonne's going to have to go back and calculate all of that for March. What sense does that make? That doesn't make any sense to do that. That's not where her attention needs to be at this time.
It is a good gesture, definitely. I mean, I agree with you.
I mean,
It
and we're-
just, if it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense to me.
The other one doesn't make dollar cents either, but we're helping
Sure
out
it
the
is.
businesses.
We went and found unearmarked money for a grant. This is nothing. This is just, hey, let's just pay for it all.
That can come out of that same grant, or that can come out of that same earmarked money you found. It's only $5,600. We're hopefully this won't last forever.
I agree. I hope it doesn't last forever.
Is there any additional information anybody wants to add to this agenda item that we're taking up for a second time before we take a vote? Currently have a motion and a second in place to waive the $5 online fee for those who.
It's $1.25 plus
Oh,
2%.
So the way that's being presented, Ms. Keeney, just for clarification, is to waive the $1.25 plus the 2%, and not just the.
Just the online, just for the online payments, not for the credit card at the, that.
I don't believe that's what staff is of the understanding was being requested, because that's certainly not how it's been packaged up and prepared.
No, and not everybody has an online account, so the person calling in with a payment may not have an online account, may not be able to have an online account, so you're, just my 2 cents, you're giving a privilege to one, not to the other one.
So people that call in too, but not necessarily people that drive up to the window.
I can't separate that. I have a checkbox, do 2% or undo 2%. I can't differentiate
Yes,
between.
I guess to be clear, is it for everybody
No.
on the credit that pays by credit card?
That's the way it would have to work. If we implemented the waiver of the fees, it would have to be for all
That's-
credit card transactions.
I thought
Correct,
that's-
Yvonne?
I thought that's what I seconded it. If that's not the case, I may withdraw it.
No, it is a motion and a second to waive all credit card fees. That's the only way it can be processed.
Everybody or nobody.
Okay.
And the cost is approximately $5,600, is that correct?
Based on Penny's calculations. I didn't make those calculations, so.
Okay. Any additional questions or comments before we take a vote?
Yes, let's
And-
clarify how
and
long we intend to.
This
if
is
it-
only for while we're on the lockdown.
Okay.
Was that what she said?
That's the intent behind the motion and the second.
Can I ask a quick question? We're not
Please.
going backwards, are we? We can't do that.
Retroactive?
Retroactive.
No, we can't,
No, we
no.
can't do that.
Okay.
Okay, council, please listen carefully. We are considering a motion and a second that has been made to waive all credit card fees attached to credit card payments to the city of Lampasas as of this date going forward during the duration of what, Ms. Keeney? What would you put as the ending date?
The stay at home, however long we have to do the stay at home.
Okay,
Emergency order.
so all in favor of waiving those fees, please say aye.
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 All opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
That will be 3-4 and 4 opposed. The 3-4 would be Ms. Keeney, Ms. Monroe, and Mr. Clark. Item number 5, discussion and possible action regarding golf course closure due to COVID-19.
Mayor and council, this was asked to be placed on the agenda for consideration of either limited or full services at the golf course. I think one of the items that resulted from this being placed back on the agenda was the guidance from the Attorney General's office, which is included in your packet. Van Berry may want to make a comment on this as well.
Van,
Mayor, council, I don't know about y'all, but I've had several inquiries about the golf course ever since Friday when the Attorney General made the announcement, but we can do this. Definitely going to be different than the way it has been. We've talked about it for pretty much all day and worked on stuff. If y'all do vote to do this, we're going to go strictly tee times. We're going to do them 15 minutes apart, or excuse me, 12 minutes apart right now. If we have to go longer, we will. That way, that'll give people some distance to get out of the way. I've talked to all the different golf courses around. Actually, we're the only one that I know of in the area that are closed right now. There are a few that are open to members only, Delaware Springs and Burnett, San Saba's members only. But the rest of them are open to the public, but they have a lot of restrictions that they have on it, which I think we can handle that. If this is approved, we're going to get barriers for my workers in the pro shop. They'll only have one worker in the pro shop. The cart rental thing, several golf courses are letting them ride together if they're family members, or if they rode over to their golf course together, letting them ride together. Now, we don't know who's going to ride with who. That's going to be the thing. With that being said, if we let one person on a cart, we're gonna run out of golf carts really quick. So, you know, I would say that we could police it pretty well. But I'm gonna be pretty strict on it. I mean, the tee times, the members aren't gonna be used to that. They're used to going out whenever they want and playing. But we're not gonna let them on the golf course unless they call for a tee time. And if you walk up and wanna play, we're not gonna let you on. You're gonna have to have a tee time. And that way we know who's on the golf course, how many's on the golf course, when they should be getting finished. What we're gonna do is open it at 7:30, and we're gonna close it at 7:30. So our last tee time, 18-hole tee time, will be about 3 o'clock, which will give them about 4.5 hours to finish 18 holes. And we're not gonna let anybody else on. And when we're closed, we're closed. It's just like being at a store. There can't be anybody out there.
My question to you is, if we were to allow the rental of our golf carts, do you have the sanitizing
I
supplies
have
in
got, street department got me a case of the sterilizing wipes that we could use, yes. And that's one reason for the tee times, because we'll know how many we're gonna need.
Okay.
We can have them ready. I'm trying to figure out a way. There's some golf courses have a mixture of some sanitizing stuff they mixed up to spray them with. I'm working on that. But I would like to give it a go. The golf course is in great shape. Obviously, nobody's been out there, and there's nothing worse than looking out there and not seeing anybody on it.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
How are you set up to handle, or are you gonna have to make some modifications to the pro shop for somebody who pays cash or credit card or?
Well, no, I'm gonna have a barrier
Check or
up. And
whatever.
We've got a place where they can swipe their own credit cards. Now, if they wanna pay cash, what we're gonna do is if there's a group of 4 comes in, we're gonna let one person come in and pay for all 4 of them. Now, they may have to gather up the money for them and bring it in.
Or do you have any kind of face shield or
I just
anything?
said we're gonna put some barriers up if this is approved.
Okay.
Man, I've been hearing that money is really bad. It's nasty, so you might want to start sanitizing the money if you get cash.
Well, and that's something, and we don't have to take cash. I mean, honestly, the majority of our revenue is, you know, whenever we come in is a debit card or a credit card. We can do credit card only. But, you know, I go to HEB and I pay them cash and they slide it under the little deal there and all that. My guys are gonna have sanitizers, they're gonna sanitize, and they do now. I mean, you know.
If anybody out there wants gloves or a mask that works there,
Excuse me?
if anybody out there wants gloves or a mask,
Oh, yeah,
will we provide them for
yeah,
them?
we will, yes. My guys have already asked for them.
Okay.
And we're gonna leave, the restrooms, we're gonna lock the restrooms on the golf course. The only restrooms will be open were the restrooms in the pro shop. We'll have everything blocked off to where they can only go in from the outside and out from the outside. We only let, most of the golf courses are only letting 4 to 6 people in the pro shop. We'll have that one front door there. We can monitor it very well. I mean, I think it's very doable.
Agreed.
It's just gonna be different for our members, because I'm gonna stand by the tee time. You're gonna have to have a tee time. That way we can police it better and know who's out there. Now, they're gonna have a really hard time with that, and they're not gonna like
Let's-
me very well.
Monica, let's be sure that we try to help spread that word so that he's not having to deal with
Well,
people
and,
who claim that
and
they don't know.
my goal is right now is either open, if y'all approve this, Wednesday or Thursday. We've still got some stuff we'd like to get done. The flag sticks, they're not gonna be touching any of the flag sticks. We've got deals to where
Like
they
you-
won't have to remove it to get their ball out of the hole.
So you'd play with like no flags, kind of, sort of? Or?
No, actually, what they're doing is they're putting a noodle in the flag on the bottom of the hole, and when your ball barely rolls in, it's sticking up above the hole, so you can get your ball without removing the flag.
All right.
And then we'll remove all the sand rakes, the water fountains, the ball washers. I'm gonna cover those up with trash bags where nobody can handle those. I've got a list of.
Sounds like you've really put a lot of thought into how to do this, so I appreciate that.
Well, and my goal is, if we do open Wednesday or Thursday, is to be open to the members only through Sunday. That way we can kind of get a feel of how this is gonna work before we get swamped,
Okay.
because we're gonna get swamped.
Okay,
And then maybe open to the public Monday, if that
Okay.
is okay.
I'd make that motion.
I've got a motion to reopen the golf course with the restrictions in place that Van just described.
I'll second.
I have a second. Take your pick. Any more questions or discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That is unanimous. Thank you and good luck.
Thank you.
Item number 6, discussion of possible action regarding engagement of local government services for pole attachment negotiation and agreement services.
Mayor and council, this is a non-COVID agenda item for a change. We've been working with local government services over the past 12, 18 months as they've conducted poll audit and also drafted and negotiated pole attachment agreements with AT&T and Suddenlink. We have reached out to Greg Fender as well as Georgia Crump. Georgia Crump is the city's counsel on these items. We asked Georgia what is the most efficient way to get this done. We now are talking with several ISPs about deployment in town, and her suggestion was let's have Greg do the legwork. I'll review it, and we can move forward. You have a proposal for in your packet. The amount is $12,000. It is a proposal that if we cancel work, we pay them for the work to date and move on, but they've done a good job for us, and we would certainly recommend a motion to approve the professional services contract.
Make a motion to approve?
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
It is unanimous. Item number 7, discuss and consider modifications to the City of Lampasas disaster declaration based on Governor Abbott's executive order. I had reached out to Finley on Friday afternoon and asked that we go ahead and put this back on the agenda because I think it's important for us as a community and as leaders to not be a hurdle. And what I mean by that is, as things are changing and as the governor's put in place his strategic reopening of certain services, and that's going to continue as a rollout type of method, that nothing we have in place should impede upon the businesses being able to do that. So, for example, this Friday, the retail to go option has been opened up by the governor. Our current order would not allow that. My suggestion to council is that we consider an order or an amendment to our order that basically allows for things as they come down from the state to be put in place on a local level, and us not have to go back in, be called back in to review that item and to put something else in place, to address each item specifically, that we just agree that we're going to reopen along the same guidelines and recommendations as the state.
So move.
That was quick and easy. I have a motion and a second from Ms. Monroe. Is there any conversation or discussion of how we want this order to read?
What you said was fine.
What I said was fine. I did speak with Judge Hoyer today. They're looking at doing the same thing on the county level. We kind of see eye to eye almost exactly on this situation. We both discussed what they've done in Llano County. They did the same thing today. They had a stay home, stay safe order, I believe, something similar to ours. They've amended that order and just essentially said, follow the state guidelines and recommendations, where, social distancing, those sorts of things. I think collectively, as a council, we can look at what we've done on a community level, what we were asked to do initially back in March, bend the curve, slow the spread, allow our local health care facilities the opportunity to catch up. I think for the most part, we can be incredibly proud of those efforts. You can see the positive impact of those efforts, but there comes a time, and I think that time is now, that we start to entrust personal responsibility. And there's no one who resides in the city of Lampasas that can say that they're not aware of the dangers of COVID, nor are they not aware of the methods by which you protect yourself. And as citizens, we have that responsibility to protect ourselves. So if you choose to wear a mask, or you choose to wear gloves, or you choose to stay home, do those things. You're aware of the consequences. You're aware of what's safe practices to put in place for yourself. And I don't think that we need to be in the way of the reopening of our economy or the things that the citizens of Lampasas wish to do, as long as they're allowed by the state. And that's my recommendation. And nobody has anything else to say. That was...
Sounds
You
good.
said it all, right?
Okay. Well, I do have a motion and a second to put in place. Finley, do you have any questions regarding the intent of council?
So what I read that they did in Llano is they actually canceled their order. What I'm hearing through this motion and the discussion is that you would like an order that stays in place that says you will follow the state orders.
Right,
Yes.
that would be my,
Yes.
and that way we don't have to come back every time something changes.
His staff, Chief Smith, you would be our leading authority in the room.
I think by what I handed out earlier to some of you, I've got a couple of statistics as far as the last month, or it's actually the last 3 weeks. Those are the top 10 counties in the state of Texas as far as positive cases. When you're looking at this, city manager and I spoke this morning. Our whole goal is to flatten that curve and not overwhelm the healthcare system. We've definitely done that. Part of by what you're looking at on those numbers there, what were we looking for by flattening the curve? We were simply looking at how quickly does this double? And I didn't go all the way back through, but I've gone back 3 weeks and I've given you numbers. And if you look at from the bottom going up, you can see how rapidly we doubled in just 2 weeks' time. It's a week. And then you look at this last week where I printed out every day of this last week in there, we're not even close to doubling, even in the biggest areas and the fastest growing areas. They're still growing rapidly, but they're not going anywhere close to what they were. I think if you were to look at the city's public health authority and look at the county's public health authority and look at the state would not be looking at reopening if they were not happy with how we flattened the curve, how we've prepared ourselves. And we may have to come back to this later on, but right now, I think you're looking at a great opportunity to go ahead and ease some of the restrictions and follow the guidance of the state of Texas and reopening up the city and allowing people to get out in the community and re-engage and enjoy life a little bit.
I agree. Finley, the timeline that we put on this, do we put as of midnight tonight, or do we need to put as of tomorrow and give you time to prep the order for me to sign?
I think you can make it effective midnight tonight, would be fine, Mayor.
Council's comfortable with that? All right, we have a motion and a second in place. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That is unanimous. Do I have a motion to adjourn into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We will move into the executive session room. I ask everyone to keep in mind social distancing. Out of executive session, back into special session. Item number 11, discussion and possible action concerning items posted and discussed by council in executive session.
I'd make a motion to approve wholesale water contract between the City of Lampasas and Kempner Water Supply, and to authorize the mayor to execute same. Yes, amendment.
I have a motion to approve the amendment to the wholesale water contract.
Second.
A motion and a second. Further questions or discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
It is unanimous. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Second from Mr. White. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.